What's the best argument for the proof of God that you can think of? One that works well for most people and so always comes up is the fine-tuning of the universe. Put simply, the fundamental constants of nature are so precisely set that even the tiniest change in any direction would make life impossible. No chemistry, no stars, no observers. That means me and you. Everything collapses, crunches, explodes, or stalls, like an American who doesn't know how to drive stick. Sorry, my American viewers. And so that usually tends to hit home, because it looks an awful lot like intentional design rather than an accident. Now, the usual reply or rebuttal to this is the multiverse. The idea that there's countless universes, each with different settings, and we just happen to be in the one that works. And I say fair enough. That's probably the strongest alternative on the table, but doesn't mean it's a good one. I mean, if you've seen Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, then I probably don't need to say anything more.
Wanda, Black Bolt could destroy you with one whisper from his mouth.
What mouth?
But jokes aside, even if you grant the multiverse, you haven't actually solved the deeper problem. Why do we even have logic? Why do we even have laws? Why should we expect mathematics to work? And why are our minds capable of reasoning about any of this in the first place? At this point, we're no longer doing physics, observing what has been created. We're asking what makes physics, reasoning, and explanation possible at all. Let's start with logic. Logic isn't something you can grab, weigh, or photograph, yet we rely on it constantly. I'm even using logic right now to make this video, and in the same way, you're even using logic to agree or disagree with what I'm even saying. Every argument for God, every argument against God assumes logic from the start. Philosophers like Aristotle describe logic with three basic laws. The law of identity, something is what it is. The law of non-contradiction, something can't be true and false in the same sense at the same time. The law of the excluded middle, a statement is either true or false. These laws don't change. They don't depend on culture, politics, the environment around you. Whether the present changes, your favorite team keeps losing, or you try to ignore them, logic still holds. So here's the question. If logic isn't physical, doesn't change, and applies everywhere, what exactly is it? Where does it come from? What grounds it? But before answering that, let's consider mathematics. Numbers aren't physical objects either, yet they help us describe reality. As we all know, 1 + 1 will always equal 2, whether in London or Mars, or even a billion years ago. Mathematical truths don't change with culture or opinion, and mathematics itself is deeply useful. Planets orbit the sun, populations grow, physics and economics use math to describe patterns that exist independently of us. Eugene Weiner calls this the unreasonable effectiveness of mathematics. Abstract, non-physical structures somehow map perfectly onto the behavior of matter and energy. So if logic gives us the rules for reasoning, and mathematics is useful in being able to describe the structure of reality itself. And remember, they're both universal and binding. What makes them real? What gives them authority? Well, we have three main answers. Number one, human invention. They're created by us. I mean, just think about it logically. When we invent something, we can redefine it, or we can rewrite its rules. Logic and mathematics don't work like that. We can't just decide whether contradictions are true or that 1 + 1 = 3. We discover their laws and they constrain us. Number two, they're just brute facts and they just exist. And I say today, sure they exist, but that tells us nothing about why they have the features they do, why they are rational, necessary, and universally binding. Logic and mathematics aren't random. They're structured, intelligible, and normative. They tell us how we should reason, and the brute fact alone just simply can't explain or do that. And number three, a rational, independent source. Logic and mathematics require a source that makes sense of reason, something rational, independent, and non-random. Another point to mention is that they existed long before humans and still would be true without us, so without us observing them. Whatever grounds them looks less like matter and more like a mind, a necessary non-physical, rational mind that makes the universe intelligible, which we would simply call God. Before we even do science, before we reason about the universe, we rely on truths that point beyond matter. Combine that with the fine-tuning of the universe, and once again, it starts to look a lot less like random chance and more like intelligence, or rather grounded in intelligence. Whether you're looking at the constants of nature or the rules of reasoning themselves, the universe makes the most sense if it comes from a rational mind, a mind that underlies everything we see, think, and understand. Now, it wouldn't be a complete video if I didn't address the biggest criticism of this argument. So does logic also ground God? Is logic prior to God? The answer theologians like Thomas Aquinas give is this: logic doesn't sit above God, it reflects God's nature. God can't break logic, not because he's limited by something outside himself, but because contradictions aren't real possibilities. They don't describe anything that can actually exist. So no, there is no rock that's too heavy for God to carry. Doesn't actually happen. And another statement to make is that logic isn't a rule that God has to follow. It's a reflection of what it means to be perfectly rational. And if you've used logic to make it to the end of this video, which by the way, you most definitely have, then congratulations, my friend. You've just proven that God exists. And so using that same logic, it would be helpful if you use it to like this video. Maybe watch the video on screen here. But anyways, until next time, stay blessed, take care, and peace.